Hello everyone, Giltar back here for the second part of my review on the high-grade Universal Sentry 1 to 144 scale MS-05L Zaku 1 sniper type model kit. Now in the first part of the review I basically went over some of the details of the model and the accessories. Now we're moving on to articulation and basically my final thoughts. Now actually, before we go into our articulation, I'll mention the hands or fists that come with the model kit. Right now it has an open hand on the left, and then in its right hand it's got like a closed grip fist. So it comes with two grip fists, left and right. It comes with a right trigger finger hand, and it comes with an open hand, and then it comes with another second open hand with its fingers slightly closer together. One thing to keep in mind is that for some reason it's great that Bandai gave us 5 hands for this model kit, but they only gave us 4 back plates, these tan or beige colored back plates for the fists, for the hands. So no matter what you do, you're always going to be short one back plate for one of the hands. So just keep that in mind. If you don't mind, it's not a big deal, but some people might be slightly annoyed by having to swap out the back plates whenever they change hands, or whenever they want to use all 4 or 5 hands rather. So let's move on to articulation. The reason why I have it sort of posed in this kind of funky position is that just to show off its ability to balance and the range of movement and bend that the limbs can go into. I think it's a really nice look at how far model kit designs have come. I mean, this is a model that was designed and produced in 2006. We're nearly in 2010, so seeing as far how we can get a lot of articulation out of a design like a Zaku 1, which doesn't really look like it's that agile in the first place. If Bandai could do this nearly 4 years ago, I don't think there's any excuse for any future model kits in the high grade lineup that shouldn't possess at least an equal level of articulation, because really there's no reason why you would normally give a Zaku this level of articulation simply because of its design. It just doesn't look like it's a limber mobile suit. So with that in mind, let's just go into articulation. So I'll just straighten out the model. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, the with like the Zuda high-grade Universal Sentry model, the Zaku 1 also has the ability to dislocate his ankles and go really far in terms of, like, it can have its foot flat like this. So it can be almost like lying down. So that's really nice. Similarly, it can bend its foot pretty far back. And while it's dislocated, or not really dislocated, but just sort of, I guess, repositioned so it's out like this, you have a significant degree of rotation to the side, so you can get some really great sort of wide-legged stances where the soles of the feet are flat on the surface. And as great as that is, I'm really impressed by the fact that it can bend its legs, its knees, higher than 90 degrees, because normally when we see a large-legged design, a 90-degree bend is usually at most is what we would often see, or maybe not even that much. Some models can only bend like that much, I think. So it's good to see this type of bulky design get that much extra bend and articulation for it. The front skirt armor, they're separate and independent. The side skirts can move up like this. Similar to the Zuda, they are actually specific to a side, so just when you're following instructions, and if you happen to mix up the side skirts, if they don't look correct, just switch them and they should look proper. You're basically going to have a flatter front section for the side skirt, and then sort of a wider angled back section. If you have them switched, it'll look uneven, you'll have like a gap on it, so you'll know when you don't have it on right. The back skirt here is immobile, so it doesn't move. Something left over from the Zaku 1 design is this back component that I guess you can clip a weapon onto, but the sniper rifle doesn't fit here. Maybe the Zaku machine gun does, I'm not too sure. Anyways, we don't really need to use it for this model, so you just leave it back in there. And the legs themselves can go this far forward, so not too bad, and about this far back due to the side skirt. So not terrible, but not the greatest. Now in terms of waist articulation, it can go 360 degrees with no problems. There's some slight contact with the front waist armor here, but it's not a big problem. The arms themselves are pretty darn good. The shoulders have a significant degree of forward bend. They don't go up and down, but at the shoulder joint itself, you can go about a 90-degree bend. On this arm, because of the shoulder armor, you want to move it out of the way first, and then you can get it to 90 degrees. The shoulder armor itself is on a polycap, and it's double jointed, so it has a joint for rotational movement, or hinged in this direction, and then it can do some rotation if you want. So that's pretty good too. The arms themselves have full rotation just below the shoulders, so 360 degrees. The elbows themselves bend really nicely, almost 180 degrees. The fists themselves, the hands rather, are pretty standard. They're in polycap joints, 360 degree rotation, slight wiggle. The open hands have an extra plastic bit here, I guess, so that they stay more, remain more stable, so that you can use these hands to support the sniper rifle in posing it. So you can rotate them, but you don't really get much wiggle at all. But it's not really necessary, so that's fine. And that's pretty much it for articulation. Again, I'm really surprised and impressed by the level of articulation in this model kit. Again, when you look at the Zaku design, it doesn't look like it's some sort of Olympic level gymnast or acrobat, so you don't think you can do all these wild and crazy poses. But due to the engineering of the model joints, you can get it in a lot of different and varied poses. So that's really great about this model kit. I'm going to move on to my sort of cons or negative points on this model. First and foremost, the side antenna. It's held in simply by friction. It pegs into the side of the helmet in a port. Just move this out of the way. And it's great, it fits well, it is snug, but the problem is it's simply held in by friction, so it only takes the slightest of bumps or taps to make this thing go flying, and it's so small you can lose it easily. And when I was assembling this model, I lost it during assembly when I was putting the helmet together, and I knew at that point it would take me a little while unless I was really lucky to find it. So I just basically left the antenna on the ground, and I finished assembling the model. I looked for it afterwards, and it took me like 20 minutes to find it on my floor. Not only because this antenna was, small, it's tiny, but my floor, it has a sort of a mixed color carpet. It's like different shades of beige and tan and gray and brown. So this thing basically blended in perfectly. So that was quite a chore to try to find. So yeah, I plan on cementing or gluing this into the head at some point. But yeah, that's something you want to watch out for. Another sort of negative point is, and I'll mention again, the hose attachment. It's not very secure. I mean, it's not so bad to have it fall out, but I'm more inclined to leave it connected to the backpack than to disconnect it and attach it to the sniper rifle, because I don't know how well it'll stay in. I don't want to come back to this model in 2 weeks' time and realize the hose fell off and I have to look around on the floor for it. And I think the only other flaw I can find in this model, to be honest, is the fact that, unfortunately, there are a lot of seam lines in the parts here. I mean, seam lines are unavoidable, but just due to the general simplicity of the surface design of the Zaku 1, it's a lot of smooth, even, and unbroken surface parts. You don't have a lot of opportunity to conceal or hide seam lines in comparison to something like, say, the Unicorn Gundam, the RX-0, because it's so full of chock full of panel lines and different levels of surface detailing. It was easy to hide a lot of the seam lines there. And something that's more simplistic, like the Zaku 1 design that came out like 20 plus years ago, 30 years ago, the seam lines, no matter where you put them, they're going to pop up. So for a lot of you guys out there who are more detail oriented, I think the only way to fix it is really you have to cement the seams, let them dry, sand them down, and then paint over them. It's something that I plan to do in the future. When I initially got into modeling a couple months ago, I thought, yeah, I'm just going to maybe paint at most, but the farther I get into model making, I really do think that really to get to the next level of detail and really have a really nice look to it, for me, seam lines are a big sort of obstacle. I really want to eliminate seam lines. Some parts are not too bad. Like if you squeeze the parts together, the seam lines will virtually disappear. But for example, on the shoulder armor, it's so big and really plain in terms of its surface. The seam line, it just stands out so much. It's probably hard to see on this camera, but in person, it's kind of an eyesore to me. So that's something that's more of a weakness of models in general. So it's nothing against the Zaku 1 sniper type. So basically that's my review. I definitely recommend this wholeheartedly. Like the Zuda, I think this design has a lot of character to it. So if you're gonna get any Zaku model, I definitely recommend getting the Zaku sniper type. Thanks again for watching, guys. Until next time.